Okay, so this is Donovan Dreyer here, and I'm here with Julia Neiman, and we have as our special masterclass guest and teacher, Marcus Straub today. So welcome everybody. And Marcus Straub he's got a company called Life is Great Coaching. And I've been working with Marcus myself for a number of years. He's just a very positive, powerful individual that seems to know how to make a difference for people, just knows how to get to know you well. And his mission is to assist individuals like myself, organizations. He does a lot of team building. So he really helps people embrace their full potential and create greater happiness and success in both life and business. He offers a number of different services, but he's founded his coaching business back in 2004. And he was actually the winner of the 2011 International Coach of the Year Award, which is really amazing. So really honored to have Marcus here with us today. He's got a book called Is It Fun Being You? The Journey to Lasting Happiness. And he's also got an audio program called Unleash Your Greatest Life Now. So this is a 21-day personal development program. And Marcus, it's great to have you here. I'm very honored to have you on as our guest today. So Marcus, take it away. Tell us a little bit about your story, about how you came into what you're doing and who you are.
Well, first of all, it's really nice to be here with you and Julia, so thank you for having me. Just like everybody, I've got a story too. It's unique to me, but I have a story, and the people that we're going to be working with through these endeavors are going to have stories as well. So let me just tune you into mine. I haven't always been a life coach. I incorporated back in 2004, so I'm ending my 12th year, about to lead into my 13th year as a coach. I do coaching across a wide scope of areas, both personal and professional. And before I became a coach, about 4 years before I became a coach, I was actually investing a private pool of money. And I was sitting there one day and I had two computer banks up, two screens up, and I'm watching the market, and I was successful. I was good at it. I knew how to invest, but I just wasn't happy. And I just looked at the screens one day and I got real honest with myself. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to interface with machines. I want to interface with people. And I just turned the machines off that day, sat back in my chair, and I literally asked myself, what do you want to do? And when I asked that question, the immediate answer was, I want to be a professional whitewater raft guide. I'd been doing private rafting with friends for 10 years, but I'd always wanted to be a professional guide on the river, taking people down the rivers, exposing them to adventures and to nature and wildlife and just the mystery of being alive on this planet. So I did that for 4 years, started out as an apprentice guide, went right in at the bottom, worked my way up, became a guide, a lead guide that first year, which was relatively unheard of. I just really poured myself into it, learned their system, not mine, and did that for 4 years. And in my fourth year, I started to think about, what's next in my life? What do I want to do now? And I had read about life coaching. I'd seen some information on it. And on the very last trip of my fourth season, I was going down the gates of Lador. It's a beautiful, beautiful river, reddish orange walls, emerald green water. It's just gorgeous. And a lady named Peggy Pillmore was on the trip from Salt Lake City, still a friend of mine to this day. In fact, she painted the logo for my company. She calls him Paddle Man. And we rode on the boat together for 4 or 5 days. And normally when you go down the river, people typically rotate from boat to meet each captain. And on this particular river trip, for whatever reason, that didn't happen. It was only her and I for 4 or 5 days on the raft itself. And we just talked. She'd been around the world to meet some of the most prestigious experts in the world to help her with different issues she was dealing with as an adult woman. And we just talked. I wasn't a coach, just a guide at the time. At the end of the trip, when she was getting ready to get in the van and leave and go back to Salt Lake City, she gave me a big hug and she whispered in my ear, "Why aren't you helping people?" And literally when she said that, it was sort of a genesis within me. It was like the light bulb, the biggest light bulb I've ever had went on. I never knew what my purpose was. I was about 34 years of age at that time. I never knew what my purpose was. I thought something was wrong with me because I didn't know what my purpose was. But in that moment, I knew. For the very first time in my life, I knew what my purpose was. And I started thinking about my life. I'd always helped developmentally disabled kids. I was always trying to help people be happy. I would stand between bullies and their victims. A little girl, Martina, that had cancer, and this guy in our neighborhood. When I was small, always a little guy, but I didn't want him to hurt her. I thought it was wrong. And I've just always been a champion of people. I've always been a champion of happiness when I look back. And I realized all that in that moment when she said that to me and I started reflecting. So I got off the river, came back into town, got busy with life coaching, incorporated, and here I am nearly 13 years later, having started out as a life coach. Now I do business coaching, leadership development, all kinds of different things. And it's a tremendous journey. I'm a fortunate man. I have found my passion and my purpose. I get to live it every single day, and I get to make a good living doing it as well, actually contributing, helping people in a meaningful way.
You know, that's what I love about your story, Marcus, is perfect example of what we're actually teaching in the academy. And that's, you know, to find out something that you're happy with, discover what you are passionate about, what you love to do, and then do that and be happy doing it. And then doors open up for you. When you're happy every day, the universe brings you more stuff.
Absolutely.
And right, and more things, and joy just wants to hang out with you when you're, you know, when you're doing it on purpose. It wants to be there with you, and it brings wonderful things. But you know, your story of how you just decided you wanted to be a rafter guy on the river, and then you pursued that, and then that opened the door to your purpose. That's the perfect example. You lived what we're teaching. And the other thing that you said that I think is important is how you looked back over your life. You got honest with yourself. You looked back over your life to see the things that you'd always done that you felt the best about in your life. And you saw how that really, when the door opened for you to be a life coach, you really saw that that was the perfect thing, because that's kind of where you have been leading yourself your whole life.
Yeah, it was really a seamless fit. You know, it was like two pieces of a puzzle. I know Donovan really likes the puzzle analogy, the puzzle piece analogy. And it was really like that. I mean, when she said that the light bulb went on, it's almost like me and life coaching just clicked in together. And it just was I think a match made in heaven, so to speak, just waiting to happen.
Hey, Marcus, tell us a little bit about how that ties in with your book. I mean, I think that really does dovetail well with the ideas and concepts in your book, the self-discoveries you've made, the coaching discoveries you've made, tapping into this like genesis that started within you. Is this something you believe others can do?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think this is exclusive to certain people or me. I believe that this is available to everybody. I think that we have to be open. I think we have to be aware, and we have to be able to recognize when certain things appear before us and not just shirk them off like, oh, that's silly, or that's ridiculous, or I could never do that, or my mom said I shouldn't do that, or whatever the case may be. I think we have to be willing to be open, to be receptive, to be able to recognize these wonderful things that appear in our life, and that, quite frankly, have the courage and the conviction to go after what means something to us. I was standing in a coffee shop that I do business in still to this very day, roughly a year into my coaching work. And I'm here in Grand Junction, Colorado, rural community, and this 6'6" cowboy comes in, and he's standing there behind me in line with his cowboy hat and his belt buckle and his boots and everything. And a nice guy, and he just, for whatever reason, he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, well, what do you do for a living, young fella? And I said, well, I'm a life coach. And he looked at me with this really quizzical look because, 12 years ago in Grand Junction, life coaching was not a common term. I was the only one here, and it was only really prevalent in the big cities around the country. But it's different now. But then he was like, well, what in the world is that? So I told him, and you can imagine, here's a guy who probably thinks you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and keep going. That's the mentality that he was raised with. That was his conditioning. Why would somebody need a life coach to help them through life, right? I explained it. He gave me another quizzical look, and he said, well, do you think you can honestly make a living doing that? And I said, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I believe in myself, I believe in my mission, and I'm committed to giving my very best, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. And here I am 13 years later, like you said, International Coach of the Year. I believe in myself. I aligned with my passion. I just got really honest, and I did what made my heart sing inside on a daily basis.
Yeah, that was good. Some other thing that you said too that I really resonate with is that you asked yourself, what should I be doing next? What do I want to do? And questions are the key. If you ask the right questions, you get the right answer.
Well, I think that's a question, quite frankly, that we don't ask ourselves enough.
Yeah.
My book is the same way. Like Donovan was, saying, how does the book tie in here? Is it fun being you? I think that's a question that we should ask ourselves on an ongoing basis rather than just going on autopilot through our lives. Because if you think about it, that's a very powerful question that we don't ask. What if you're
Yeah.
going through your day and, you know, you're in traffic and you're getting frustrated because too much traffic and you got a late start or whatever the case may be, you're going to be late, and you start getting upset with everybody around you. And then you ask yourself, is it fun being me right now? Well, the answer is, if you're honest, going to be no.
Yeah,
And if
exactly.
you know, then you can change what you're doing to make it a positive for yourself. Yes, it is fun being me because I've chosen to relax, not stress out anymore. I've learned something. I'll leave earlier. Maybe I'll take a different route, whatever the case may be. But there isn't anything I can do, so I'm going to let the chips fall where they may and do the best I can with the situation. You've just returned yourself to a place of empowerment and a place of peace, and that's all within our power.
Yeah, that's right. You just mentioned something else that's really important too. You make a decision to do that. Happiness is a decision. Your attitude is a decision. These are choices that you make every single day. And and it's really important to understand that we do have control over that. It's like Viktor Frankl, who was a concentration camp survivor and a psychologist, and he said that the most important thing you can know is that the only thing you really have control over in life is your attitude. And if you decide to have a good attitude, everything just falls into place around you. I think that's an important thing for people to know.
I couldn't agree with you more, Julia. I think it's an incredibly powerful statement. And once a person is willing to understand that when people become willing to accept that they can only control certain things and that they can't control others. They may be able to influence them, but a lot of things you just have to let go. You don't get to control that. But, we do get to control something. We do get to control our thoughts, which there you go is attitude, right?
That's right.
What kind of thoughts am I going to allow myself to entertain? What attitude am I going to carry with me through easy times and challenging times, right? Am I going to become an alchemist where I make the best of every single thing, every single moment that's in my life, or not? I can control what I choose to say, how I choose to use my life, my time, my body, and I really get to align all those things in such a fashion that I can feel good on a consistent basis and be happy if I want to, even though life isn't always fair or easy.
That's right. No, that's right. And I learned to ask myself, is this something I need to be stressed about?
Yeah.
And then usually the answer is no. What's the purpose in being stressed? That just keeps you from getting a solution sooner. So, and a lot of us, life coaching, this is where life coaching comes in for people who don't really know, to help you reach that point where you can do that inner work and really learn that you can control your thoughts, learn how to do that, right? And because that once you get control of your own thoughts and you start to shift, and once you shift your thoughts and your thinking, then everything around you shifts.
That's correct. And I agree very much that life coaching really helps in that effect. So the gentleman says, what is a life coach? Do you think you can make a living? Well, the truth of the matter is that people don't know something's possible until they know something's possible.
That's right.
As coaches, one of our biggest jobs that we have with people is to introduce people to possibility, to introduce people to their potential, to what can be, right? And then once they know what can be, they can actually move towards that. Until then, they're not going to move towards it because they don't even know it's possible.
That's exactly right. Donovan, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, Marcus. So, I'm speaking probably for the teenagers I've seen over the past 16 years where, they might not have that belief. You've got that belief. It's really coming out of you. It's like a great fire and passion, which I always love about you. And, from that teenage perspective, so I've seen like over and over and over and over again, that belief's not there. So you talk about that potential and possibility, and you could coach them to that. Give us a little bit of a taste for that, for a young person out there that just might be struggling with that belief, and how you can kind of maybe see that power possibility, and maybe what we can do right now as a younger person.
In order to help them with their attitude?
Yeah, to build that belief. If they don't have it and they're just feeling like, that's all well and good that, grown-ups can have it. Some, a coach of the year could have that. But what about me?
Well, I think that teenagers are faced with a lot of different challenges, just like adults are. They're a little bit different challenges because of the age that they're at, but they still have challenges as well. And their identity is forming at that time as well. So adults are pretty much formed. We've got different challenges or stressors, if you will, that we typically deal with in teenagers. But I think that helping a teenager to just reflect upon when they've had a good attitude and when they haven't had a good attitude, and the difference between their reality. I think that we don't often look at that, that when you have a really good day, you wake up, you're happy, you go to school, nobody gives you a hard time, you get good grades, everything's working out well, your girlfriend's happy with you, etc. Your parents are happy with you, you just feel good. Those are easy days because their attitude is supportive of that kind of reality. On the other days when they wake up and they stub their toe getting out of bed and they just didn't get enough sleep because they stayed up late playing on their video games or their phone, their own choice, by the way, and they start their day off and it just seems like they run into one thing after another, and by the time they get to school, there's this mountain of stuff that hasn't gone right. The attitude is rotten and sour and the day is completely different. So when I work with people, whether you're young or old, I help people to really get clear about the differences between what a day is like, what reality is like with a good attitude for them, and what it's like without a good attitude for them. And everybody's had these days, and if they're honest, they can patch into these, they can tie into them, and they can relate and say, yes, I can see where my attitude definitely made a difference. And then you begin to build momentum with that young person about how do we keep this consistently in a good position for you. This isn't for your parents. This isn't for anybody else. This is first and foremost for you, young person, to have control over your attitude so that you get to have some control over the direction of your life and the quality of your life.
Yeah, that's a very important, not believing in yourself is one of the 3 biggest hurdles that not just kids, but everybody needs to get past in our lives. And it wasn't until I started really looking at these things that you're talking about for myself that I realized that I had so many limiting beliefs, things that, I got from my parents, limiting beliefs about money. And I didn't even realize that these were there because they're so buried in your subconscious. And until you really intentionally make a decision to change your life by changing your thoughts and really doing an honest assessment of where you are and what's going on with you, you kind of get stuck in that. But once you make that decision to make those changes, your life just shifts and everything changes really fast.
Well, it certainly is a necessary decision if you're going to make any sort of changes of that caliber. I agree with you completely. The beliefs that are within us, I like to delineate between autopilot and being awake at the wheel. A conscious creator of your reality is what I like to call it, where you've got your hands on the wheel of your life, you're awake in the moment, you're paying attention, and you're making conscious decisions based upon your awareness of your reality. Whereas autopilot is you're just going through the motions. Old unconscious habits are running you. You're not in control of you in the moment.
That's right.
Where do those old habits come from? They come from our conditioning process. The vast majority of the beliefs that any human being has within them are beliefs that they didn't even pick up or agree to consciously. They are unconsciously agreed to over a process through a process called conditioning over time. And so, as a coach, we all get the opportunity to sit in front of people and help expose them to their belief system. And if a belief no longer serves them because it's just something they picked up from somebody else, we can work to let that go and replace it with a belief and a habit that does work for them. And wow, what an opportunity as a coach to be able to awaken people to their blind spots and then also guide them to this new power that they have in their own life.
That's exactly right. And what's really exciting about that is young people, especially, they feel like they have no control of their life, but really that's their own doing. And once they realize that, they can easily take control of their life. And that doesn't mean managing people around them and making people bend to their will. It just means changing themselves so that everything around them changes and gets better for them. And then they really do start to feel in control. And once you feel like you have some control over your life, then you start building self-esteem and confidence. It's like you're just sharing all these great lessons. It's really, I really appreciate that.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, so Marcus, tell us, when you got both adult clients, you got younger clients, tell us, to step up the excitement and passion for making a life here. Tell us what kids have on the older generation. Like, so kids maybe have a little bit of an advantage. Tell us about some of the advantages you see that maybe the younger people have when you coach them.
I think one of the greatest advantages that I see young people have is that they're looking for somebody who they can relate to and who can relate to them. And as a coach, if you can find a way to relate to this young person, to meet them where they're at, and to be a neutral person in their life, an objective person in their life that's working to understand them and to help them achieve what they would like to achieve, they really like that. They really respect that, because I don't think that's always what they're getting. I think they're getting people with preconceived ideas, people who are very close to them in the form of parents and counselors, etc., that, you know, really do have a lot of information, and they have some bias in there, and they're more subjective perhaps. And they're just looking, they want to be heard. They want to be understood just like everybody else on the face of this planet. And I think as a coach, when you do that with a young person, they start to wake up, they start to open up, and they start to share with you. And the great thing about young people is they're not as conditioned as older people are. And I believe that they're, even though they won't always admit it, they are recording all the time. Even teenagers are recording all the time. And I think that there's an opportunity in there to get in under before some of this conditioning is too deeply ingrained or has even happened, to be able to help them open up to who they are, what their potential is, what makes them happy, what feels good, etc., what their personal truth is. I think there's maybe an easier opportunity to do that with them if you connect with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the things is they have the ability to change faster.
Yes.
You know, due to that not being as conditioned as somebody who's older and somebody who's had more negative years than positive years. They become really conditioned to that, and young people haven't had that much time in it, so it's easier to make these changes once they get it.
Something that really quantifies that is when you coach an adult, you're oftentimes going to hear, well, that's going to be hard. I've been doing that for a long time, or that's going to be a struggle. And you don't hear that as much from the young people. So I think that goes right back to prove the point you're just making, Julie, and that, you know, it's easier for them to transition. It's easier for them to change because it hasn't been ingrained for so long. The rut, so to speak, the groove isn't so deep. And I think that goes right back to quantifying what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then with neuroscience, you can actually, I love that you said the groove in the brain, because you can actually overwrite those grooves.
Yes.
You know, no matter how much negativity you have programmed in there, if you start with the positive thoughts and the positive energy, it actually overrides those and creates new grooves in the brain.
Yeah, new neural pathways are created. Old ones pull away because you no longer are using them. That's how you starve a habit on a biological level. We say, well, how do you change a habit? Well, it's happening on a biological level. You've got, you know, synapses and you've got neurons, and they're connected. There's this neural net in your brain, and literally, if you stop doing a behavior and you replace it with a different behavior consistently for a long enough period of time, you retract, or that old neural network connection withers and a new one is born. We actually can do this.
Exactly. And how powerful is that? When you think about that, how much power you have over that you can actually physically change your brain. I mean, that makes me feel very powerful.
Well, imagine how much progress we could make, you guys, if instead of trying to control everything and everyone around us, we actually turned our attention on ourselves, became self-aware, not in a negative or critical way, but in a neutral observer sort of way. And we learned to engineer, if you will, our thoughts, our actions, and our words in order to create a reality that we really like, that we really enjoy, that really feels good to us. And then we share that reality with people around us in the world. We would be so much further along if we would turn our attention to ourselves and control what we can and let go what we can't. I think it's one of the great secrets to happiness, whether you're young or you're old.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a really good point. And so what advice would you have then, or what suggestions would you have for young people to be able to do that?
To be able to take control of their thoughts, actions, and words?
Yeah, what's like an action step they can do other than just changing a habit?
Well, you've got to, number one, know what kind of habits are working against you. So you have to become self-aware of your habits. And they're going to be fairly obvious, particularly if you're just really honest with yourself about your answers. I mean, you can see them very clearly. And then being able to monitor, let's just say monitor that one bad or negative habit, destructive habit, if you will. Just monitor yourself, and whenever that habit shows up, whenever its tendency arises in your life, catch it immediately, just like you catch a baseball in a mitt. Stop it just like you stop at a stop sign, and then redirect yourself to choose a behavior that is constructive or good for you or healthy. And if you do that a number of times over and over and over again over a period of weeks and months, you're going to actually replace the old habit with the new one.
Yeah, that works. You know, I had a client once. I was a clinical social worker, and I worked with foster teens. And she would, everything out of her mouth was, "This is so hard. It's so hard." And she really convinced herself that everything was so hard. So I thought, well, how can I help her change that? Because that's really not serving her well. And we came up with, I said to her, okay, I don't ever want to hear the word hard out of your mouth again. You have challenges. You can just say, "This is really challenging, but I'm up for it." And I charged her $1 every time she went back to "it's hard." So she had to put $1 in the pot. And I mean, she got the money back. I didn't keep her money, but it went in the pot. And she got to the point, and now she's 27, and I'm still parenting her, and she'll call me up and she'll go, "Wow, I just had a really big challenge, but you know, I was up for it and I managed to handle it." And now she's in nursing school, whereas when she graduated high school or left high school, she was semi-literate. And now she's in nursing school, and she's doing really well and getting A's and B's, and she changed her attitude toward learning and math, and she's, I mean, the change in this young woman is amazing.
Well, you know, there goes right back to attitude and mindset. If you believe something is hard, it will be hard. If you believe that something is doable, it becomes doable. If you don't think it's doable, it's not doable to you. It may be doable, but not to you. And so really we're setting ourselves up to either have opportunity, not have opportunity, succeed, not succeed, stretch ourselves for our potential, or just stay where we're at. Really, it's our mind that gets in the way of the life that we truly want to live more often than not. We're actually the ones limiting ourselves and teaching people, young people, you know, you don't have to limit yourself in that fashion. You know, you don't have to go down that road. You can take a different avenue, a different choice, the road less traveled, let's say. You can take that road and really decide that I'm going to identify wherever I'm getting in my own way. And if it's just with attitude, then I'm going to work to change that attitude. If it's with behaviors, I'll change those behaviors. But I'm going to get out of my way and set myself free to be who I am, to share my gift with the world, because who I am uniquely is the greatest gift I will ever give to the world.
Man, Marcus, I really agree with that one. So tell me about, like, if we want to make this a reality, you know, we're 18, 21, 16, somewhere in there, and we're thinking, I don't want to be saddled with all that conditioning. I don't want to be, you know, stuck in a place where I see other people that are unsatisfied with their job. They hate their career. I don't want that to be me. I don't want to just go through the motions. I don't want to just, you know, take whatever preconceived notions other people think is right for me. But man, I really love this idea that Marcus is talking about, and I want to go for it. What are some of the keys that you've had to share, or you've discovered as a coach and as a business person and as a person going through the world with this kind of incredible attitude? Tell us a little bit about how we make this a reality. You know, I'm curious as a young person. I get to hear from the 2011 Coach of the Year, like International Coach of the Year, words of wisdom to share with me today. And I'm just a sponge recording, like you said. Give us some more, Marcus. How would we make this a reality?
Well, I think the first place to start is that some young people do know what they want to do. They have a clear understanding of their purpose and their passion. I would just encourage that, you know, go for that, explore it, see where it takes you. There are other young people that are doing what they think their parents want them to do or what they should do. And whenever it's I should do, I start looking around the room and ask myself, where's that coming from, right? Is it coming from in here? And if it's not, then I think that it's important that a young person explores that and says, you know, get honest with yourself. Your parents may have an idea of what they want you to do, but what do you want to do? You're not your parents. And it's okay to acknowledge that. It's okay to accept that. And it's okay to really get familiar with who you are as a human being, what makes you tick, and what you're passionate about, what makes you smile just to think about doing it. Not even doing it, just the thought of doing it makes your heart happy, makes you feel light, makes you smile and excited. And then there's other young people that have absolutely no idea. They're like me. They thought something was wrong with them, perhaps. And with those young people, what I want to encourage them to do is try different things. Be honest with yourself. Try not to cave in to peer pressure from anyone. Just get honest, try different things, sample different things in life until you come across something that sort of tastes good to you, if so to speak. You know what I mean? Because there's so much that young people don't know. Heck, there's so much that older adults don't know, right? And we really just need to get some experience, to sample some things, to try some things, to find out what do we really like. And then you get a chance to fall into your passion because you tried different things and you got a chance at real success and happiness.
What are some of those keys that you'd say, you know, as you make that successful path, you're starting to realize that dream and it's coming into place? What do you think are some of those core values that you'd love to see any person that's going out into business or making their passion a reality? What are some of those real vital keys that you think any person would really want to latch onto and start making a part of their life as they make this step-by-step process into a reality?
Well, you know, there are a number of different motivators or core values that exist in the world and in human beings. And really, I'm familiar with all of them through the work that I do. And no matter what your beliefs, no matter what your core value is, if you are integrity-based and if you truly care about what you're doing and how you're doing it, I think that those are two of the biggest things that are missing in the world today. They're evaporating. And I think that if you're going to be a young person and you want to change this world for the better and you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, be integrity-based. Be a solid human being, not perfect, a solid human being who's always trying to do well by others and to do well by themselves at the same time so that everybody gets to win, and really care about the product or service that you produce and the people that have become your clients. You know, when we care at a high level, we do things very differently and we get very different results than when we don't care. And so if I could say two things to young people: be integrity-based and care deeply, and you will have a great chance for success, happiness, and a sense of inner peace and contentment, because you'll be building your self-worth instead of destroying your self-worth.
Yeah, that's a great point. Integrity is the #1 value on my list as well. And for anybody that doesn't understand or know what integrity means, the simple definition is it's doing the right thing even when no one is looking.
Correct.
You know, so just if you give your word, keep your word, make your word be good. If people don't trust your word, you're done for it. In business, if you're not in integrity and you say one thing and you do another, if people don't trust you, you are finished. You might as well just go do something else.
Yeah, your credibility is shot, you know, because what people are looking for are incongruencies. When people are talking to you, do what you say and how you behave, do they line up? And if they line up, that's called a congruency. And that's how people decide whether I can trust you or not, or whether I can believe you or not, whether I can even work with you or not. And I think that in this line of work in particular, but all forms of business, if you think about it, I mean, what would the world be like if everybody who was doing business was integrity-based and truly cared? We would have no more food that wasn't good. We would have good food. You know, it was delicious. That's right. It was still fast food, but it was delicious food. We would have wonderful things, homes that are constructed out of pride, not just how fast can I get it done to make $1, but pride because I really care about the family who's going to live here. You know, they may live here their entire life. They may raise multiple generations. You know, this is the place, the vessel that's going to contain the most important aspects of a human being's or a family's life. And I want to be a part of providing an exceptional experience for them. I mean, to have that kind of attitude, to have that kind of, you know, commitment within you, when you have that, I think it's pretty tough not to be successful and not to be happy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And can you address failure a little bit? Like, you know, we talk about being happy and being successful. And what about failure? Because most people see failure as a really bad thing. But to me, it's like the greatest, it's a gift because you learn so much. So how would you recommend that somebody cope with failure and not fall into a depression? You know,
I honestly believe in restating the term. I mean, the word failure doesn't really work for me, just like the word problem doesn't really work for me. Mm-hmm. You know, life is, and we have these tendencies to put definitions or labels on things so that our human brain can sort of categorize where this lies in my field of reality. I'm not sure we need to do that as much as we do. I mean, failure, let's just talk about that. You're going to make choices in your life that are going to create outcomes, because that's really all that's going on here. If you think about it, it's ones and zeros. We're making choices which create outcomes, and we either like the outcome or we don't. decide on which one it is, choose again, another outcome, like or don't like. That's the fundamental premise of everything that I have found going on here. It's that simple. And so if we think about it, we make choices, and we don't know everything. We can't take every variable into account. We don't know so much. We make the best choices we can with the information we have, and they don't always work out. Now, do we need to call that failure, or is that just an experience that we can learn from? And I think that's what you're talking about, Julia.
Yeah.
Let's redefine it instead of failure as an experience in life that I can learn from. And we can learn from successes, right? Or quote, failures. We can learn from both. And why not learn from both? Because if it works, do it again. Or can I make it better? If it doesn't work, how do I need to adjust it to get what I'm looking for? I mean, you know, it's just life. And I think if we quit defining it in negative terms and just sort of neutralize it a little bit and just say, hey, this is an experience. It's here for me. I'm creating it. I'm helping to co-create it with other people. Let me just make the most of every single experience I have so that I keep moving myself and my reality forward the best way I know how.
I think that's a great explanation. And, you know, it's like Thomas Edison. And for those of you who don't know Thomas Edison, he invented the light bulb, among other things. And some reporter once asked him, you know, how does it feel to have failed 10,000 times? And he got annoyed with that. And he said, I never failed. I just found 10,000 ways it didn't work.
Right.
You know, and he just kept going. That's the thing, is like, if something doesn't work, you can't let that stop you. You can't throw your hands up in the air and go, oh my God, I'm a failure. I'm just going to do something else. No, just keep going for it until you get the outcome that you're looking for.
So it comes right back around to attitude, doesn't it?
Yes, it
really
does.
It's all about attitude. That's what colors the field of your reality. And it's really what causes you to make the choices that you make. And if you can get past a negative sort of perception of reality and a bad attitude, then a lot of things open up to you. You know, there's a whole difference between glasses half empty, glasses half full. Those are two very different perspectives.
That's right. And in reality, the glass is always full because the part that doesn't have liquid in it has air in it. So there's always something in the glass, right? You know,
Go ahead. Finish up, Julia. Sorry.
Two of my favorite quotes about attitude. This one I got from a boating magazine called Attitude and Latitude. And it's, you know, attitude is the difference between ordeal and adventure.
Yes. I agree.
And I like to look at my life as an adventure. I'm just on this adventure. Whatever happens, happens, but I'm going for it. And the other is, a bad attitude is like a flat tire. You're not getting anywhere with it until you change it.
That's another really good one.
Those are my two favorites.
I think a lot of young people think they're going through ordeals. I think a lot of adults think they're going through ordeals instead of going through this adventure called life, you know?
That's right.
I had a colleague that I work with. He emailed me yesterday, or emailed him asking for some information. And I just said, I hope you had a really great day. It was a great day to be alive simply because we were here and we were living it, you know, without any other parameters on it. We simply were here and we had the opportunity to live another day of life. And, you know, that's a tenet that I have. That's a real core belief that I have, is I can get into all kinds of judgments and criticisms and condemnations, bad attitude, negative perception kind of stuff. But what's the point? I mean, how fruitful is that really? Is it buying me anything of value? It's not buying me anything of value. And so I have just learned over the years that can be turned around. And I think a lot of young people, we just talked about, they can change sooner because they're a little bit more flexible or adaptable, if you will, maybe a little bit more versatile in their mental and emotional states. And I think that, you know, really helping young people at an earlier age understand, look, this isn't an ordeal. I'm not saying that there's not challenges. I'm not saying it doesn't be tough sometimes. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is this is your life. This is an opportunity. This is your moment. This isn't an ordeal. This is a gift. Now embrace that gift, unwrap it, and let's have some fun at this party called your life.
Amen.
So Marcus, I love that. So what if you got a young person here that's, you know, feeling that vibe for it? Where does that support come into play? So, you know, Julia helped the young lady out and got her all fired up about life and got her on the path to nursing with a new attitude and a better attitude. Where's the role of support kick in, with whether it's coaching or what other types of help? I see a lot of people that are, you know, nervous about reaching out for help, nervous about getting some people on their team, or maybe don't want to invest in themselves or don't feel there's value there. So talk a little bit about the value of just investing in yourself or getting that support. What's the meaning of all that?
Well, everybody I have found has different levels of support, okay? And I think it's really important that we understand what our level of support is and whether we need more or not, and just being honest about that. A lot of people I've encountered in my life think that getting help in some form or another is a sign of weakness. I'm going to counter that 180 degrees and say that that's not true. That we all have blind spots. We aren't capable of knowing everything. This is where an expert such as myself or you guys comes into play, where we know things that the people we work with don't know, and we can expose them to that. We can help them. We can give them tools and ideas and strategies and ways of doing things that they never even knew existed. And that's really what getting help is about. It's exposing yourself to people, really good people. And you have to be discerning about how you pick. I mean, honestly, I would never advocate somebody just pick somebody. No, pick somebody you've got a good fit with, that you find credible, that you get a good feeling with, that there's a good synergy with, that you want to work with. Because if you want to work with them, you're going to get better results than if you're iffy or don't want to work with them. And investing in yourself is the best investment you're ever going to make in life. You know, you turn on the TV on a daily basis, invest in new clothes, invest in a new boat, invest in a new car, invest in a new house, invest. Buy. I'm going to suggest something to you. If you want the greatest ROI that you're ever going to get in your life, it is to invest in yourself as a human being, to invest in your mental, emotional, and physical well-being as a human being, and to really invest in your potential. Because if you don't, you probably aren't going to discover it nearly as much as you would if you did that. I know people that don't invest in themselves at all. And when they come to me and eventually decide to do that, and we start to show them the benefits, it's so black and white why it's so valuable to do.
Yeah, and you said something I just want to clarify. You said ROI, and some of them may not understand. That means return on investment.
Correct.
So, so what Marcus is saying is that if you invest in yourself, things that will help you grow and open up and be receptive and learn, that's going to be the biggest return on any investment you can ever make. And all of us here have invested tens of thousands of dollars in our education and our transformation, and we can testify that that is true. That's absolutely true.
And it's not a depreciating asset. You know, once you invest in personal growth and development, this is something you can leverage for your entire life. As long as you're alive and as long as you're willing to, you can use it in your life somewhere in a positive fashion. That's an appreciating asset, not one that lessens in value, but gains in value over time. You know, teaching people how to listen with integrity is one of the trainings I do. That one piece alone, teaching people how to actually be present in the moment they're having a conversation with another human being, to drop all their own mental agendas and their desire to speak, but rather just to understand the other person, relate to them, and get to know them. Just that one thing alone, teaching one person that one thing, them investing in learning that for themselves, will change every relationship that they have personally and professionally for the rest of their lives for the better. It's like winning a lottery ticket that's going to pay dividends for the rest of your life, and there is no way to lose by learning to listening with integrity. There is no way to lose. And how often can you encounter something like that? And that's what life coaching can bring to all people.
That's exactly right. And you know, that requires good listening. And like you said, being present. And that's a skill. I mean, you can learn to be present. You can learn to be a good listener. And, you know, going back to getting help, one of the lessons that we teach in the academy is how to build a dream team. Because we all need mentors. We get there faster when we have people who have been there already, you know, and or who are even anywhere further ahead on the road. Maybe they haven't gone all the way to where they want to be, but they're a lot further ahead on the road than we are. To bring them on as a mentor and ask them for help and advice, you know, that's doing yourself a tremendous favor. So, and I know that's hard for some young people because they're in that space where they want to have autonomy and be in control of their own life, and thinking about having to ask somebody older or more experienced for help is like antithetical to where they're really coming from. But really, you have to get over that.
Agreed.
Get over it.
Well, yeah, that's not new. You know, we've had kids investing in college for generations, and, you know, and I think that's a great investment, but it doesn't come with a guarantee. You know, Marcus, when you talk about all the different ways you can invest in yourself, there are new ways coming about these days. And it's really awesome to see that if you're going to build a dream team, there are different elements. It might include college, obviously, but there are other elements that factor in that make these successes and the happiness and the belief in yourself more of a reality. So, Marcus, maybe in closing, you know, if you've got any parting thoughts for sending off these, potential entrepreneurs, these exciting, creative people that are listening to this, and they just want to get one last great boost from Marcus Straub. What do you got for us to close it out?
I'm just sitting here and it flashed in my mind, if I don't wake up tomorrow, what would I like to leave the young people of the world with from me? I would like them to believe in themselves. I would like for them to give themselves a chance outside of what they've been told they can't do, outside of being told what they're not, outside of being told what they're not capable of. I would really like young people just to push all of that aside, to really open up to the majesty that's inside of them, just the absolute majesty that's inside of them as a human being, to be honest with themselves, to be open to reality, to listen, to learn, and to really identify those things that align with who they are as human beings, to not be afraid, to be courageous in the living of their lives, and to go out there and create a life that means something to them and that adds some value to this world. And that's what I'd like to share.
Nice. That's a beautiful thought. Well, Marcus, thank you so much for talking with us today. We really, really appreciate it. And I'd love for you to tell people, where they can find you and what can they find on your website and what have you got?
Well, I believe you guys are going to post some information about my different links on Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. I've also got a website. That website is
there it is.
greatcoaching.com. This actually has my Facebook page right here. This is my professional Facebook page. So you can go here. I post a lot of columns here that I write in a business publication, which apply to life, because whenever I write something about coaching or teach something about coaching, it applies both personally and professionally to young and to old. I've also got a LinkedIn page where you can go and you can see information about me there. It really gives a good listing of the different areas where I'm highly ranked by different people in my network and different people on LinkedIn. This is my website that we're looking at right now. My book, Is It Fun Being You? Also the CD program, Unleash Your Greatest Life Now, is on there. They're in hard copy and digital version. If you want to go to my website, as you can see, it's lifeisgreatcoaching.com. Go look around, have a look, read some of the testimonials. One of the things I do with testimonials is I never edit them. A lot of people have said, well, cut them down to the PowerPoint statement. I don't do it. If a person's willing to make a testimonial for me, I put the whole thing on unedited. That's their impression of their work with me. So I do that. And like I said, you can go there and you can buy my book and CD programs, etc. right there online, digital or hard copy. And if you want it signed, I'll even sign it for you. You just got to let me know in the notes, when you order it, what you want from me, and I'll make it happen for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you being here in support of all the young people of the world. And I think you brought a great message today. So thank you for that.
Truly my pleasure.
Thank you, Marcus.
Oh, Donovan, thank you for having me. Julie, I appreciate it. It's good to be alive. Life is great. And I think that the more we get the opportunity to share that in the world, the more opportunity that has to take hold in the hearts and minds of human beings. And in young people, I think that's really important.
I agree with that.
All right, Marcus, thank you so much and have a great day, my man.
All my best to you both.